Gonna admit everyone now. All right, all right. Good morning, afternoon, uh, evening to everyone. My name is Andres. Welcome, welcome. Welcome to today's joint J School information panel. Today's session, we are super honored to be joined with many different journalism, graduate schools of journalism across the United States. And we are so happy to be able to provide information about our programs. So with that, um, being said, let's go over today's agenda. So first of all, everyone is going to have the chance to welcome you, provide an introduction about themselves, about their schools that they're representing, um, talk about why their journalism school is important, or why journalism school in general is important, as well as now, especially with the current events in the United States. We'll be having a panel discussion where we'll be having representatives from all these J schools talk about their programs, application requirements and deadlines, funding opportunities, as well as upcoming events and announcements. And we will be more than happy towards the end of today's session, providing a chance for Q&A with these J schools. But don't let that be the only think that's the only opportunity. I'm sure every single J school here is more than happy to have time set up to email or to have personal conversations with you to answer your questions. So to get that started, first also introduce myself. My name is Andres. I'll be helping to moderate today's panel. I am a first year student at the Berkeley Journalism School, where I'm studying multimedia, trying to focus on data journalism. And to kick that off, I'll pass it on to my boss, Nelly. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Great, thank you. Yes, so my name is Nellie. I am the Director of Admissions here at UC Berkeley Graduate School of Journalism. So yes, thank you all for joining.
All right, we'll go ahead and move on to Taryn.
Hello, everybody. I'm Taryn Almanzar. I'm the Associate Dean for Admissions and Financial Aid here at Columbia's Graduate School of Journalism in the city of New York. Thank you so much for joining us today. I look forward to hearing your questions.
Thank you, JT.
Hi, everyone. I am JT Tavares. I am the Associate Director of Admissions at the Craig Newmark Graduate School of Journalism at CUNY.
Awesome. Joel, go ahead.
Hi, thank you. I'm Joel Calvin. I'm the Associate Dean for Graduate Programs at the Newhouse School. I'm also a professor in the Magazine News and Digital Journalism Department. And Martha and I have worked together for 22 years now. So I'm left arm, she's right arm.
Thank you. Moving on to Martha then.
Hi, everyone. Martha Coria, Assistant Director at Graduate Programs at the SI Newhouse School at Syracuse University in Syracuse, New York. Really excited to share more information with all of you.
All right, amazing. So let's go ahead and first establish the basics of all our programs, because I'm sure some people here have heard about Berkeley or Columbia or CUNY, but for those who might not know that there's all these options, let's go ahead and get some program overviews. So why don't we start off with Taryn with Columbia University. Would you like to provide some insight as to your program, highlights and strengths, as well as what really distinguishes Columbia's program?
Sure, absolutely. So we've offered a couple of graduate degrees in journalism. Our main one, which has been in existence in over 100 years, it's the MS in Journalism, Masters of Sciences. And that program, it's 9.5 months if you're doing it as a full-time student. And it's very much hands-on. From the moment that you walk in through our doors, you are treated as a journalist. You're sent out to the streets of New York. You're doing reporting, and you're bringing back the work that you're doing back to your professors, who are going to act as your editors slash producers and will give you feedback literally line by line. Then we have the Masters of Arts. That's for experienced journalists that have, on average, about 5 to 15 years of experience. And it's a combination of skills, but also of subject area expertise. So we have arts, business, politics, and science. We also have the Masters of Sciences in Data Journalism. That program is 12 months, so a year. Have to complete it as a full-time student. You do not need a mathematics background, statistic backgrounds, or anything like that. But you're going to be using data as one of your sources. We have also the Masters of Sciences dual degree with the School of Engineering, where basically you're getting 2 degrees from Columbia, one from the journalism school and one from the engineering school. That one is 2 years, and you do need a computer science background, meaning bachelor's degree or mathematics background. Finally, we have the PhD program. It's a doctorate program in communications, not in journalism. So you will be studying the field of communications and its effect on society. What is the strength of our program, of our school? We're global. Our population, our students, our alums are literally from all over the world. We're in New York City, although CUNY can also say that as well. So it's the media capital of the world, but it is a selling point and it's something that we both share. And then what I would also say is the alums. If you have an opportunity, just look to see where they are and the kind of work that they're doing. And that's a testament of what we, meaning a CJS, can provide for you and do for you if you decide to join us. That was a lot, but I was trying to keep it short. So
I mean, that's the difficult part of this at the end of the day, right? Where there's so much to offer from every one of these programs. And I know for me, when I was applying and I looked into Columbia, the data journalism program was very enticing. So that's a huge point right there. Let's move on to the Newmark J School. Would anyone like to provide some insight into your program?
Hi, everyone. So I can talk a little bit about our programs as well. And like Columbia, we are in New York City. We're about a few blocks away from middle of Times Square. So it's definitely a very busy area for sure. We don't have many programs, but we do have the Master of Arts in Journalism, Master of Arts in Journalism bilingual program for Spanish and English speakers. And then we have the Master of Arts in Engagement Journalism. We do not require students to have any type of journalism experience, but we do welcome it, but it's not required. Our programs are full-time, 3 semesters long, and students are required to complete a summer internship between your second and third semesters. The Master of Arts in Journalism is actually our most popular program. You do get to learn a little bit of everything. And the way I like to describe it is it's broken down into 3 parts. You have the fundamentals that you learn during your first semester, including a class called the Craft of Journalism. So in that class, students are out there, they're assigned a community district in New York City, and you're reporting weekly in that district, which is great. You also get exposed to data journalism, audio journalism, and visual journalism. So the idea for that is we want you to be able to get exposed to it now to determine whether or not that's something that you want to pursue for your second and third semesters. The other 2 segments that is broken into is subject concentration. So you get to choose 1 out of 6 subjects. So it's arts and culture, bilingual, business and economics reporting, health and science, international, and local accountability reporting. So once you choose that, you get to focus on that during your second and third semesters, in addition to a specialization, including audio, data, and visual. So that is the breakdown of the Master of Arts in Journalism. The engagement journalism is a little different. You do get to still learn about the fundamentals of journalism, but the idea behind that program is for folks who don't necessarily want to do the reporting aspect and you want to build products within journalism, that's an amazing program. It is a very vigorous program because it is full time. You're out there doing on the ground reporting, so that's important to keep in mind. But we really do and focus on hands-on training. Like Columbia said as well, and considering that we're in New York City, we use it as our backyard, like a little playground in a sense.
Yeah, that very interesting to say. New York is my playground. Let's go ahead and move on to Syracuse. Would either Joe or Martha like to speak? Joel, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to start, and Martha will do the stuff later on. First of all, let me just say thank you for having us here. And for all you who are considering going to graduate school in journalism, these are four great schools. So whichever one you choose, you're going to be fine with. Okay. I say our strength is that we're actually really a school of public communications. So journalism is at the center of what we do, but we also have programs in public relations and advertising, television, radio, and film, music business, advanced media management, things like that. But in terms of our journalism, we have three or four programs. We have magazine news and digital journalism, which is what I teach in. We have broadcast and digital journalism. We have art style and culture, which is an arts journalism program, and we have photojournalism. I think one of our strengths is that we're a 1 year wraparound program for the most part. So all of our students start in July, and most of the programs end the following June. And we start all the programs with a boot camp. And the reason we start with a boot camp is people come to us with varying degrees of expertise. Some just have liberal arts background, which is great. That's what I had before I went into journalism. Some have more generic communications or journalism programs, and some of them have journalism, but they want to go deeper into it. And we really, our strength, like many others, are our faculty, who are almost all from the industry, and many of them recently from the industry. We have a faculty of more than 90 right now. And our alumni network. The Newhouse Network is basically in all the fields everywhere, in all the cities everywhere, and so that's great. So the 1 year wraparound program means that you start in July and end in June. Broadcast and digital journalism, they have a double capstone. They put it on a newscast, but then they all go to Washington for 6 weeks and work for next star stations across the country. And in fact, this summer I took students to both the Democratic National Convention and the Republican National Convention. And the Republican, they continued to report for next star stations while they were there. So they have some really very interesting stories to tell. One of our other highlight strengths is that we're very well known for sports, as you can imagine. And if you go to ESPN, probably half the people who work there were at some point Newhouse grads. But we also are very strong in political reporting. We have a brand new center in Washington on an Institute of Democracy, Journalism, and Citizenship. And that's, like I said, where the broadcast journalism students go. Our art journalism students go up to Toronto for TIFF, the film festival. They go to New York City for a theater immersion. They go down to South Carolina for the Spoleto Festival, and they cover it for the weekly city paper there. They cover the festival for that. So we do a lot of different things. We're not in the city. We're not in Berkeley, San Francisco, or New York, but we're not too far from New York, 4.5 hours. And oftentimes many of our students will intern actually in New York. They'll take classes with us, and then they'll go down to New York City. But like I said, these are all great programs, and just look around, ask us questions, and we're all confident that you'll pick the school that's best for you.
Awesome. Thank you, Joel. And then just moving it on to Nelly, to wrap up all the way onto the West Coast now.
Yes, I was going to say, I think we're one of the few obviously we're the only West Coast school in this panel today. But yeah, I mean, I know, we talk about New York and the East Coast, but I think, again, one of the benefits and sometimes what brings students here is obviously our location as well. We are, and our reputation. At UC Berkeley, you'd be, at one of the top public universities in the world, home to many of the innovative thinkers and technologies transforming the practice of journalism. We were ranked just number two public university and number 5 in global rankings in U.S. News. We're also, again, located in the city of Berkeley, which is just outside of San Francisco in the formidable Bay Area. Our students are able to report in the communities, the local communities. We have hyper-local sites. In the first year course, students are able to report, to do local reporting and publish stories in those sites: Richmond Confidential, Oakland North, Richmond North, sorry, Oakland Confidential.
Other way around. You had it right the first
I had it
time.
right the first time. I always confuse the names. But yes, Richmond side, Oakland side. So again, just the ability to just be able to report in the local communities right away from, the very first day is something that, and again, because our program very much is learning by doing, I think that's something that also sets us apart. We also offer a small, tight-knit, supportive, and collaborative community. At our J school, we ensure through small class sizes, we ensure that you'll develop strong bonds with your diverse community of student fellows, faculty, and staff. We enroll up to 60 students each year. So again, that really makes for that tight-knit cohort. And we're a 2-year program, so there are 2 cohorts, so 60 students in each of those cohorts. We also are one of the few programs that I know of that offer a 2-year master's program, which again is focused on launching or advancing your career in journalism. But again, we don't require that you have journalism experience in order to apply. As part of that, we also require an internship of 300 hours, which most students will do during the summer between year 1 and 2. Another important feature of our program is we only offer one holistic program. So everyone that applies, it would be to that 2-year Master of Journalism program. You would choose when you apply a concentration or specialization in a specific media platform, but you wouldn't need to officially declare that until the end of your first year. So you have plenty of time to dabble and explore in the various platforms. So whether that's audio, documentary you wouldn't necessarily be able to explore. You'd have to apply directly to our doc program, but audio, narrative writing, multimedia web video, as well as photojournalism. All of those would be open to you to explore. If you are interested in our documentary program, you would need to declare that, as we do have a higher level of relevant experience needed, because it's a highly technical program. But all the other media platforms you're able to explore in that first year. So we also offer a business journalism certificate, which is brand new. So as of now, as long as you take 3 courses with the school, our Haas Business School, you are eligible to get that. You'd be able to get that business certificate on top of the master's degree. So a lot of really great things. Our investigative reporting program is also really well known with David Barstow, who's a 4-time Pulitzer Prize winner for his time over 2 decades in the New York Times. So yeah.
All right. Amazing. I obviously can speak more of Berkeley, but we are all people who work in the journalism industry, so we know how to talk for a long time. We're gonna go ahead and continue with our questions for today's panel. Oops, where is it? Resume sharing. So when it comes to our I lost it. There it is. So we've talked about the program overviews and talked about how my mistake. Where is it? There it is. All right. So we've talked about how our programs. Now let's talk about deadlines. Martha, if you'd like to talk about Syracuse's application requirements and deadlines, what are for students who are applying, let's say as of today, what is that like thing that is really crucial for students to know? And just as a reminder, students feel free, or prospective applicants, feel free to put your questions in the chat. We will have a Q&A portion towards the end, which we hope to respond to all your questions, or as many as possible. So go ahead, Martha.
Okay, thanks, Andres.
Yeah.
It's a pretty straightforward process. The priority deadline is January 15th, so I'll put that out there first. That's really the best time to apply to receive full admissions consideration, merit age consideration. We will continue to review applications on a space available basis after that deadline, but the application itself is an online form, a personal statement, a resume, 2 letters of recommendation, undergraduate transcript. We do not have any standardized test requirements except for international students coming from non-English speaking countries. And we do have an online video interview component that is nothing that anyone needs to prepare for, but it's just a way to add to our holistic admissions review and get to know you better. My one piece of advice that I give to applicants is to really put the time and consideration into their personal statement. Since we do read those, we really like to see students demonstrate their fields, their understanding of the program, how they want to incorporate that into their future goals. So that's something we really do like to see from our applicants.
All right. Thank you, Martha. Nellie, would you like to provide some key parts of the application process for Berkeley?
Yeah, I think I would echo. I assume most of us have the same. So thank you, Martha, for going through kind of the general application requirements. I think most of us require the same types of things. I would say the same thing we don't require, just to highlight, in addition to what she mentioned about kind of the general, all the transcripts for any courses taken. So undergraduate, bachelor's transcript, having essays and kind of all of the general requirements. We do also offer we don't necessarily require an interview. So essentially, in lieu of an interview, we have a personal video statement, is what we call it. As Martha mentioned, like a video, and that's up to 4 minutes, where and that again is really an important, vital way for you to showcase who you are, beyond what we see in your application materials. The other thing I would highlight is our deadline. So Martha mentioned like hers is theirs is a little later. Ours is actually December 16. So that is priority deadline. We actually have 2 rounds, but my recommendation is to apply by that December 16 deadline. If you would like to be considered for departmental funding, so I'll talk a little bit more about that in the funding section. But yes, so I do highly recommend, to apply by that first round. Our second round and final deadline is February 3rd.
All right. Thank you very much, Nellie. Let's go ahead and jump to Columbia. Taryn?
So all of the things that my colleagues just mentioned are part of the application process, with the exception of the video. We do not require a video recording, but we do have interviews for 2 of our programs, for the data degree and for the dual degree with engineering. And don't get nervous when we say we have an interview. It's just to really get a sense that you understand what the programs are about. And if I had something, I mean, you should concentrate on every piece of the application, because it's almost like a puzzle that we're trying to build and see. And that puzzle that we're trying to see is you. So my recommendation is to, in your essays, particularly in your professional one, tell us the story. And the story has a beginning, where you are now, where you would like to be, and how do you see the program helping you get to where you want to be. That'll tell us 2 things, the committee. You have a clear view of where you would like to end up, and you understand our program. That is not to say that once you come in and you change your mind, or you shift gears, we're not going to go back to you and say, that's not what you stated on your admissions application. That's not the intent of that. It's just so that we know where you are and where you want to go. The other thing about the application process is that we do have a test that is proctored. There's really no way to study for it. It's not standardized. The questions are put together by our faculty members. And basically what we want to gauge is your awareness of the world, how you're able to write on the fly, meaning without, relying on the web or AI or spell check. So it's getting an assessment of where you are with writing.
All right. Thank you. I remember my interview I did for Columbia was in a random public library, because I just didn't have time to be anywhere else. Let's go ahead and go with like Nellie to talk about the. Oh, sorry, not Nellie.
I
Yeah,
did want to highlight one more thing though,
yeah.
which is that we also don't require GRE.
Mhm.
So yeah, just so we don't require testing either at Berkeley.
All right, JT, please.
Okay, so our priority deadline is January 17th for scholarship consideration. We do offer a generous amount of scholarships, so I do strongly recommend students who are interested in the fall 2025 semester to complete their application by that date. After that date, we're still reviewing applications on a space availability basis, and the final deadline would be March 3rd. Other than the online application, we do ask for your resume, unofficial transcripts for domestic students. If you're an international student or not an international student, but you completed your degree program outside of the US or Canada, we do ask for a credential evaluation. So keep that in mind because that may take some time to get. That does have to be official. We have an English language test that you need to take if you completed your undergraduate degree um, outside of the US, or if you went to Puerto Rico, since most of their instruction is in Spanish, you may have to take it. You can call us if you have any questions about that. But for the most part, if you completed your degree, undergraduate degree outside of the US, and the mode of instruction was not in English, you will have to take that. We have 3 writing samples or 2 writing samples and 1 multimedia sample. You can submit that. Letters of recommendation. We also have a 2-part entrance exam. It's not the GRE. It's just to really assess your writing. There really, like Columbia, there really isn't any way to really study for it. We do have a sample test from 2 years ago that you can refer to. The context will be different, but the formatting will be the same. So at least that can give you a sense of what to expect on exam day. It's also proctored virtually through ProctorU. And the admissions process is a holistic review. So we look at everything. The admissions interview is optional, so it's completely up to you. Some students like to use that to sort of maybe explain maybe their grades or maybe talk about something that they weren't able to refer to in their application. That's completely fine. You're not at a disadvantage if you choose not to do it. So just keep that in mind as well. If you are applying to the bilingual program, and a Spanish language interview is required to assess your Spanish speaking skills. And we do offer tips for applying sessions throughout the semester to help you really put your best foot forward. I know that submitting an application could be daunting for many people, so we just wanted to make it as seamless as possible for you.
Amazing. Thank you, JT. And I would like to everyone, because it seems like, and I want to make it clear to everyone in the chat, I am seeing your questions. I'm slowly like making sure I can compile them and make sure that our panelists can answer these towards the end or throughout the conversation here. But there is one question that I would like for everyone to just spout out if able to. When would applicants hear back about their decision processes? So I can speak for Berkeley. Typically, the applications and decisions come out late March. That is when, whether you did the first deadline or the second deadline, that is typically when decisions will be made. But how about Taryn at Columbia? When do decisions come out for y'all?
Yes, our decisions come out the middle of March. And I noticed that I did not get the deadlines. We have one deadline for I know it's been a long day. For MS, it's December 15 for the doctoral program. And when I say MS, I include the data degree as well. It's December 15. And for our MAs is January 5th. So middle of March, we send out decisions. There is a separate application process for scholarship funding. I heard a little bit about that from my colleagues. And we send out decisions the same day for both.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll move on to scholarships very soon. JT, just quickly, when would decisions be made for CUNY?
We will start early to mid-March.
All right, thank you. And then Joel or Martha, when would decisions be made for applicants?
We start releasing decisions around the beginning of February and continue until about March 1st.
All right, amazing. So let's talk about funding and scholarship opportunities. That is one of the biggest things. And as I'm seeing through the chat, I still want to be cognizant of time. Let's make sure that our panelists, maybe about 3 minutes max, if we can shoot for that. But talking about what are opportunities for scholarships for prospective students, and if there's a way for you to provide some insight into students within, let's say, like your state. I'm speaking as like a Berkeley student who, like a public university here in California. There are some funding opportunities for California students, but also maybe out-of-state students or even international students. What are those funding and scholarship opportunities that they should have on their radar, and when should they really be like focusing on that? So since I started off talking about Berkeley, Nellie, if you'd like to provide a quick oversight. And this is also to mention a lot of these schools, including Berkeley, we all have dedicated webinars that go farther into depth. So don't feel like you're missing any information. We definitely are trying to expose everyone, but there is deeper levels to these conversations. Nelly?
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, so for us, changing the face of journalism, we believe here as part of our mission requires empowering a new generation of diverse, talented voices to tell stories that make an impact. So through our dedicated campaign for Berkeley journalism, we've had major donors. That's also beginning. It's still early morning here on the West Coast. We have major donors that have pledged significant support to help us reach our 54.4 million goal over the next 5 years. Their commitment brings us closer to enabling students to graduate debt-free while expanding opportunities for student awards, travel reporting grants, emergency funds, and funding for any unpaid internships that our students might have during the program. So again, our goal is to help reduce financial barriers for those that are curious, brave, bold, and passionately dedicated to pursuing and advancing a career in journalism. So here at Berkeley, we have a myriad of opportunities to help offset those costs. Around 50 to 60% of our students receive some form of support from us. And essentially, as I mentioned, that December 16th priority deadline is super important, like it is for other schools. So all admitted students, or sorry, not all admitted students. Well, all students that apply by that December 16th deadline are automatically considered for merit-based departmental funding, which can range anywhere from $5,000 to fully funded fellowships. Andres, who's here, is actually a Dean's Fellow. He's which is one of our fellowships for first that is specifically dedicated to supporting first generation students, but we do have other fellowships as well that are fully funded or give immense support to help offset those costs. But again, a lot of those are merit and some are merit and need based as well. For any need-based departmental funding, if you're applying for that, make sure that you complete the departmental grant application section. And if you're a domestic student, make sure to complete FAFSA as well, or the California DREAM Act application, CDAA, for California residents, which opens December 1st this year. It may open earlier, but as of right now, the stated kind of expectation is December 1st. So again, this is how we're able to kind of make need-based considerations in offering departmental funding. But again, international students can also be considered for that merit-based scholarship consideration. Yeah, and that's kind of all I had to say. But there are a lot of opportunities. I would look at our costs and funding page, which I'm happy to provide a link to here. But yeah, it's very comprehensive. It also talks through ASC, academic student employment opportunities, which are work study opportunities, like being a graduate student instructor, like a TA on campus. And that actually offers you tuition fee remission, which would cover all of your tuition for any semesters worked. So I recommend looking into those opportunities too. So if you don't get departmental funding from us, or you want to supplement, you could, as an international student or a domestic student, apply for work study as well.
All right. Thank you, Nelly. Let's move on to Syracuse.
First, I want to say I love that mission, Nelly. That's really great and impressive that that Berkeley has that mission for students.
I like that mission too, Martha, getting a full ride.
So on the flip side, Syracuse is a private institution, which does mean that expenses are the same for in-state, out-of-state, domestic, international. The costs are the same, but we are revenue driven, so we are limited in the aid that we can provide. We do our best to, we do provide funding for approximately 90% of the students who ask, but it is in the form of partial merit-based awards. To apply, you just need to answer yes on the application form that you'd like to be considered. Our awards are percentage based, so they range in percentage amount, so it's applied during every academic term. For additional funding, our domestic students, U.S. citizens, and permanent residents can apply for loans through facilitated through our Office of Financial Aid. All graduate students are considered independent, so most of our students are all receiving the standard maximum amount of loan funds. But we have a couple special programs for our magazine news and digital journalism program. We do have a fellowship program that fully funds two students in this fellowship. We have a special arrangement with our local news organization. They do intern extensively with them, so they're getting a lot of additional hands-on experience in journalism while they're studying. Usually they take an extra semester because they're kind of spending additional time working, so they go part-time for 2 of our semesters. So that's a really unique program that's specifically for students of color. And then we also have a pipeline scholarship from students who've attended historically Black colleges and universities, as well as students who've attended Hispanic serving institutions. So we're providing 50% of tuition coverage for students from those institutions. And also Fulbright, we do offer 50% for students who are applying through receiving the Fulbright grant as well. So we are doing our best to offset the cost. Graduate school is expensive. It's a big undertaking. So we're doing our best to try to offset the cost as best we can. But full transparency, it's partial funding, not a lot of full funding opportunities, but we're trying to spread that funding to as many deserving candidates as possible.
Thank you, Martha. Yeah, I appreciate the transparency, because some programs really do have different ways that they're structured, right? JT, we'll move on to you at CUNY. Would you like to provide some insight?
Yeah, absolutely. So we only offer merit-based scholarships. We have a number of full tuition and fee scholarship opportunities in addition to partial scholarships. So I do want to express this, and I know you're probably wondering why do I have to say this, but we have a question on the application that asks, are you interested in scholarship funding? If you are, I urge you to please select yes. The reason why I say that is because some students have missed that question or have answered incorrectly. So it's very important that you say yes. When you do, then that prompts us to review you automatically for scholarship funding. There's some scholarship opportunities that we have available that require you to submit an essay. It's very few. I think maybe 2 or 3 require you to submit an essay. Other than that, if you're not interested in the ones that require an essay, you can submit an optional essay just to really include why you're interested in receiving scholarship funding. And again, going back to what I mentioned earlier, the January 17th, the priority deadline, that is for scholarship consideration. So I do strongly recommend, if you're already thinking about applying for the fall 2025 semester, to complete your application by then to increase your chances. Now, you can still get a scholarship after submitting, if you complete your application after the 17th, but by the final deadline, which is March 3rd, but your chances decrease slightly. So keep those things in mind. Other than that, we do have a scholarship opportunity page on our website that includes a sampling of the scholarships that we have. As of right now, I think we have like maybe 4, I believe, scholarship opportunities that offer full tuition and fees. I think one also provides, in addition to full tuition and fees, a living stipend. It's not very large stipend, it's something small, but those opportunities are available. They're not really limited to your residency status, so whether you're in-state, out-of-state, or international student. So I do encourage everyone to just take a quick look at it to see if you're interested. And that's about it.
Yeah, thank you, JT. Moving on to Taryn at Columbia.
So we do have a separate application process. Unlike my colleagues, you have to fill out scholarship aid forms that we have, and the deadline is December 1st. As you can see, the deadline is not way before, but about 2 weeks before the admissions deadline. And the reason why we have a separate scholarship application process, it's because every single penny that we give out, it's based on donations that are made to the school. So we don't have the government or anybody else really helping us, except for our foundations and private donors. Each of those donations have specific eligibility requirements that we have to meet, and we have to make sure that we select the correct recipients. What I would say, fill it out by the deadline, give it a shot. We will not look at the scholarship information unless you're admitted. We're need blind in terms of the admissions process. I cannot emphasize that enough. I've seen countless of time students that were admitted, and either you thought you were not going to be admitted by Columbia University, or you thought that, see what I mean? Or you think, oh no, if I submit that, that's going to negatively impact my admissions process. I'm here to tell you, as the Dean of Admissions, that is not the case. Please apply. About 76 to about 80% overall. Different programs have different percentages. It can range anywhere from like 80% to 100% of those that applied for scholarship funding receive some sort of funding. But like Syracuse, the full funding is not, when we say it at Columbia, full funding, we mean tuition fees plus living expenses. Those are very limited and few, but we do have the range anywhere from $20,000, which is about 25% of tuition, to 100% of tuition. That's our range for our scholarship recipients. So do yourself the favor, fill that out. As my other colleagues mentioned, student loans are a reality. Our students are borrowing, and our Dean Delani Cobb, has made it his mission to raise scholarship funding. And he's also launched a loan repayment assistance program, which we are in our second year. And for those alums who are working full-time at a non-for-profit news organization, their loans can be forgiven. We give them a grant of up to $10,000 per year. So that has been a huge help. This is our second year, and about 8 or 9 alums already have paid off their student loans while they were here. So just food for thought. The other thing I will mention is look into outside scholarships. These are scholarships that are offered by private organizations, and they're given to the students. So regardless if you come to Columbia, Syracuse, or Berkeley, or Newmark, you're going to carry those funds with you. We start you off with a listing on our site, and the eligibility requirements ranges from write an essay, you're a journalist, this should be easy for you, to let me know what your interests are. So I would deeply, deeply encourage each and every single one of you to do that research, because again, that's money that you're going to carry with you. And sometimes students will say, well, that's only $500. I'm like, listen, that's $500 that it's free money that you don't have to repay. And then I've seen checks as big as $20,000, $30,000 come across my desk. So do your homework, make this part of your planning process so that when you do get that admissions letter that you thought you were not going to get, you have your finances plan as well.
Thank you, Taryn. Yeah, and that is definitely a message that all of these schools, I'm sure, can agree upon, that as much funding as they may have, a lot of the times, because it is a graduate school, loans may be involved. And depending on like the payment period and how it's going to be, it's definitely a benefit to look into outside funding. I know for Columbia, like Taryn said, they have a database of like all these places that could be possible sources of funding. Berkeley as well. I'm sure Newmark and Syracuse also have outside links and sources. So go to each one of these sources. And if you don't plan to apply to Berkeley because you hate California, fair, but look into like what funding opportunities may be possible. And even on top of that, I wanted to clarify one thing. As a first gen student for both undergrad and grad school, the terms need-based and merit refer to two different things. So for those who might not be aware, here in the US, when it comes to need-based funding, they're looking at your financial aid situation as of now. So whether that's your taxes, whether that's self-reported, you're giving some information to these schools as to, okay, I do not meet a certain tax bracket. I can't make enough money in order to pay for my education on a sustainable and consistent basis. So I'd please refer me, or please provide me with funding because I'm poor. That's to put it like succinctly. But when it comes to merit-based, that does not just mean that it refers to journalism. Some scholarships, some funding opportunities say, okay, how much have you done as a practicing journalist? Other times, how much have you done as an undergrad? What has your grades look like? What have your projects or research stuff look like? And that is when the merit-based scholarships come into account. So I just wanted to dispel that for anyone who may not have heard those terms right now. So for everyone on today's panel, because we're about to move on to the Q&A section, which I'm sure if you've been looking at the chat has been very enticing. What upcoming events? Let's point out some an upcoming event in the near future, and one that maybe students should really look out for in the perspective, like a little farther ahead. What upcoming events and announcements would you like students to be aware of? And for all our panelists, if you have the links to whether that's your application site or that's contact information, I would also like you to provide that in the chat just so students can have that readily available in case they would like to stay in touch with you. So we'll start off with Nelly. What upcoming event, I can kind of answer this question, but what upcoming events and announcements would you like to provide?
Yes, I'm just gonna go very quickly. So yeah, we're actually holding our open house and class visits events series next week. So if you are in the area, then please, I recommend joining us. And a lot of these sessions are actually also, so the class visits, you have to be in person, but a lot of the info sessions, we're going to have faculty-led info sessions, both on campus or virtually. So it's hybrid. You can attend in person or virtually. And it'll cover our range of concentration specializations, which include the audio, documentary, multimedia, video for the web, narrative writing, and photojournalism concentrations, as well as an overview from our investigative reporting program, staff, and alumni. So yeah, there's those events, those info sessions will be virtual as well. So if you're an international student or you're out of state or just not able to come next week, because I know that's happening soon, then please attend virtually. And those registration links are on our website. If you go to the admissions page, our admissions events are all there, and you can register there. The last thing is we have a Bay admissions mixer on campus as well next week. Again, that will be held in our J School courtyard, so that will be only available in person. But again, if you are on campus, please come join us next Thursday, 5 to 7 for kind of happy hour, to mingle and connect with current students, like Andres, or our alums, our faculty and staff that are excited to connect with you all. And yeah.
All right. And I will just plug it one more time for us. Every Friday, we have JPeer chats. So you can talk to me or my coworker, and we're happy to go down the application process in detail and provide some tips. Let's go with Taryn at Columbia. Upcoming events, important announcements that you'd like to really highlight.
Yes, absolutely. So this upcoming, well, first of all, every week we have information sessions, both virtually and in person. So if you're in New York City, you can come in. Virtually, you can join us. But next week, Friday, we're going to have a conversation with our Dean of Academic Affairs, where he's going to talk about what it means to be a CJS student, what kind of skill sets are you going to be walking away with. But most importantly, in that session, he's going to emphasize and clarify how the journalistic skills that you gain, whether it's CJS or any of our other schools, are really transferable and global, so that you're able to think about your career in an intentional way, and the flexibility that it can afford you. So I will encourage each and every single one of you to register for that event. Again, whether you're thinking Columbia or any of our schools, it's a great session. And I put the link in there where you can see all of our upcoming events. And then be on the lookout for sampling, what we call sampling a class, which basically it's our faculty members, and they will have a class where you can sign in and you can learn from them. We just had one, a great one, a weekend workshop about a week ago. But some of these sampling a class are online. So wherever you may be in the world, you'll be able to join us. So that's what's coming up with Columbia.
Awesome. Let's go ahead and move on to Syracuse, Martha Joel.
I did include the link in the chat for the upcoming events. For anyone who's near Syracuse or can easily travel to Syracuse, we're having an on-campus open house next Friday, November 15th. The week after that, November 20th, I'll actually be visiting New York City as part of a larger Syracuse University graduate information night. And then Dean Kaplan and I just finalized an admissions and financial aid webinar date for Monday, December 9th. So we'll have that on the website soon. But I'm also available for virtual appointments. That's on the link. And then we have a faculty program director for each of our programs. So I'm happy to put anyone in touch with the specific faculty member to Zoom with you or have a phone call with you or a conversation about our specific and different master's program.
Thank you, Martha. Yeah, I will plan my trip to Syracuse accordingly then. All right, JT at Newmark, please.
Thank you. So we have an in-person open house coming up in November for prospective students on November 21st at 5 p.m. But after that, we do have a number of virtual information sessions for general sessions and program-specific sessions. We also have like I mentioned before, tips for applying sessions. They're all held virtually via Zoom. So you're welcome to do that as well. We also have students are allowed to come in and sit on the class if they want. So if you're interested in that, you could just email me directly and I'll provide you with the link and you can self-register, assuming you're in town. And we also have on-campus tours every Wednesday with one of our current students. So those are the different options. And I did link the events page to the chat, and that includes most of the sessions with the exception of the class visit. So if that's something that you're interested in, you can email me directly and I can send you the link. I did want to make one correction. I do apologize for going back. I want to circle back to the scholarship. There's 2 or 3 specific scholarships that do require you to be a New York State resident, but other than that, the other ones don't necessarily require residency. So I wanted to point that out.
Awesome. Thank you, JT. So with that, as a reminder to everyone, every single one of these panelists are part of the admissions departments in their respective schools. And by the sound of it, I mean, at least I hope I'm not taking this out of context. They're all very happy to like be in communication and talk with you. So with that, let's have that conversation now, a little bit more onto the Q&A portion. And what I really want to emphasize to our panelists is let's be succinct with time because there's a lot to get through, right? And I will do my best to try and keep you onto that page. But the first question that I want a panelist to start thinking about is for international students. So we have a few international students in this chat and conversation who are wondering a little bit about their process and where they can get a little bit more information, as well as with the recent development in US politics and in the government, what kind of things would could help ease their process with like accessing visas or accessing international requirements. So I'm going to go ahead and whoever would like to start, feel free to unmute yourself. And to everyone in the chat or all our participants, please place it in the chat. I'm going to do my best to go through it, but we're not really going to have time for people to really speak up because we've gone through the chat and people putting their questions there. All right. Anyone want to talk about international student applications? Anyone? Feel free to.
I just think, you know, given the ramifications of last week, you know, depending on what country you're going to be coming from, that could change. I doubt it will change this year because things take time. But I think you need to be cognizant of what's going on. Pay attention to the news. Pay attention to all of our schools have international centers. I would reach out to those as well. For us, there's really no difference between a domestic or an international application, other than, as Martha mentioned, if you're from a non-English speaking country and haven't spent a year in the United States at a college or university here, then you're going to have to take you're going to have TOEFL or IELTS or whatever, one of the international language things. Other than that, everything is the same. But again, also for you, you have to be able to provide financial wherewithal to come, or they're not going to give you a visa at all.
All right.
Yeah, if I can, I did see that there was a question in there related to the evaluations. So for us in particular, you can get an evaluation from anyone from the NACIS site that they have listed. So it's pretty broad. But If you haven't done it already, I strongly recommend doing it as soon as possible, because depending on what country you need your documents from, they may take a little longer than others. We've seen people that were able to do it within a few weeks, and then others weren't able to get them done until about 5, 6 months later. So keep that in mind, and I would just start doing research now. You can maybe narrow it down according to the cost of the evaluation, as well as how quickly they're able to turn that around for you.
Awesome. Thank
So,
you.
oh,
Ellie, go
quick
ahead.
thing. I was going to say, so we don't require, so we're a little more at UC Berkeley journalism, we're a little more flexible on international requirements, meaning that it's really on a case by case basis. The department could kind of choose how they evaluate candidates and kind of what materials kind of, so we don't necessarily require like a WES verification. It really depends on it's very much case by case. If you are doing it, for example, if you are planning to like do a WES evaluation or a third party evaluation for your transcripts, because you're applying to another school that requires that, then you can of course use that for us. But we have a little bit of wiggle room. And so, as long as it's translate, if, for example, having like a translation that's in English, or if it's not in, so we actually do accept Spanish documents. So if the language is English, and if the transcripts are in English or Spanish, then we don't require a translation. But yeah, for any other languages outside of that, we will require an official translation. But yeah, please feel free to reach out to us, because all of our schools, I think, operate so differently on these requirements. And I know there's so many nuances with international applicants and even the countries they're applying from. Some schools, there's a little bit of a wiggle room here. If you're from Nigeria, if it's an official, like it changes so much. I used to work at George Washington University. I've worked at business school, and every school is different. So
Yeah.
please email us probably after this session to just make sure you're getting the most appropriate information for each individual school.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Karen, Martha, anything else you'd like to add? No? Okay. So moving on, there was a general consent, or a theme that seemed to come from a few participants, asking why should journalism, why, if they've already had a background in being a reporter for a while, business journalist, or did an undergraduate degree in journalism, what's the benefit of coming to your and doing a master's in journalism? So if anyone would like to speak up, talk about that.
I think you're speaking to the choir here, because we all see the value of journalism and journalists in the entire world.
Well, Joel, not necessarily journalists, because I think the question
You
is more
can
the program. Why a specific journal?
Right. So I was going to get to that. So
Oh, sorry,
the
sorry.
program is for someone who's been out for a while. We all know that things have changed so rapidly in all different ways, in artificial intelligence and the ability to write on mobile and me type things. So the main reason would be to, I think, upgrade your skills and make you a more formidable applicant for a bunch of jobs going forward. But the other thing, and a lot of reasons that people who are journalists come to us and probably some of these other programs, is because they also want to teach. And having a master's degree is going to allow you to teach at a lot of places. Now, a lot of other places, particularly like schools that have more generic communications department, will require a PhD. But those schools, like the ones here, who are really teaching the next generation of practitioners, want to get people from the profession who have updated skills, but they like to see a master's degree with them. And so that, I think, is a very useful thing as well.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else would like to speak on that point? So,
excuse me.
oh, sorry, Tariq. No, I'm talking to our panelists, but there's one thing that I had seen from a lot of our information sessions, and that was uh people who have had been like journalism experience, whether that's been photojournalists for a while or business journalists for a while, and decided to come at least into like Berkeley's program. The consensus that I've heard from them is that they wanted to either gain a new skill, or they wanted to find networking opportunities within the journalism spheres. And I think that's very telling of each and every single one of these programs, where, for example, At Columbia, there's a huge like data journalism program that if people want to go into that skill set is a great opportunity. With Syracuse, there's a great opportunity for a larger expansion in like communications, whether that's branching out to like public relations, ESPN, like Joel mentioned, or even with like CUNY and having those resources to like New York and being a little bit more on the develop on your own side. So I feel like when it comes to why pursuing a master's in journalism is a good investment, if you are even practicing, if you have an undergraduate degree in journalism, or you're saying like, what, I am already on the right track. Well, a reason that I feel like a lot of these schools have provided would be that you learn a new skill and you get very good at that skill. And you have that network of faculty, of staff, and other reporters in your programs to be able to withstand changes in the journalism industry. And that's going to lead into my next question is what prospects, someone had asked, what prospects do they see in like the stability of journalism as a career? And you, if anyone has any opinions on that, since career outlooks for all our students tends to be different year to year, and how is it that each and every one of these schools are looking to ensure that their students who graduate have that opportunity to find that stable career or stable job path? Go ahead, Terry.
Yes, I can answer that. So what I will say is that, and I'll take the liberty a little bit to speak for my colleagues here as well. It's not so much about the technology, although that is important. When you're walking away with a master's degree in journalism, you're walking away with knowing what's going to come down the pike and how you can maintain yourself in that. Particularly as CJS, is how to become leaders in the world of journalism. I will urge you to look at the leaders among higher education, in different newspapers, in different news organizations, and I'll bet you that you're going to find CJS alums. And I bet you're going to find alums from Berkeley, from Syracuse, from Newmark. And again, because you're walking away with that skill of learning and looking what's going to come down in the future. Particularly for CJS, we have a dedicated team of in our career development department that will work with you. About a month into the program, where do you see yourself going? Where do you want to apply? They'll have mock interviews. They'll have where they'll sit down with you and work on your resume and cover letters, on clips, and how do you present that. They'll start setting up interviews for you. The faculty are also, these are world-renowned faculty that are journalists and that are well-connected. They're going to help you with that career. And we also have one of the largest, if not the largest, career expo in April, where you have news organization wanting to hire our students, our alums. So that's another avenue. With that, at the time of graduation, meaning as our students are walking across that stage and getting that diploma in their hands, about 70 to 80% already have something lined up for them. And then as the months go by, that number keeps increasing. But more than that, you're going to have a lifelong connection with the school and with our career development team. So as you're looking at job offers also, our career team will coach you through that and tell you, no, they're not offering you what you should be getting, or pivot into this, or ask this kind of questions. So that's how the J School prepares you for that career and makes sure that you can have that career path that you're looking for.
Anyone else from
Yeah,
the
I
panelists?
would I would echo a lot of what you're saying. I think so we have an amazing our career development director, Betsy Raitt, is amazing. She actually, funny enough, is a graduate of Columbia. funny enough. So she graduated from Columbia J School. But anyway, she, has been working with us for the last 5 years. She has been championing, she's been championing, I'm sure I know we all know each other, which is why it's funny. And she's been championing, she's the one that kind of created Media Mayhem, which is kind of like your own kind of career fair, which happens typically in April. And, I think just the amount of connections we have with the different types of newsrooms that our students are able to connect with directly, whether that's the New York Times or Bloomberg News or the AP or Politico or just the list of connections that Berkeley journalism has in the field of journalism, as well as the way that we're creating and innovating in the space. For example, we have a Berkeley journalism is part of, championing the Logan Symposium, which is for investigative reporters and happens every year for the last, I don't know, 8 years or so. And that again invites investigative reporters to connect and network from all across the United States. Also the California Local News Fellowship, which is, where our students, after they graduate, they're able to apply for this fellowship. But we essentially are innovating and trying to drive local reporting, and we're actually placing these fellows. So I think the cohort was around 40 to 50 this year. And these are people that are placed in newsrooms across California, the state of California. But again, to drive local reporting and to stimulate this, because we're speaking about the field of journalism and this need to kind of help drive, right, journalists to go into newsrooms that need that support, but maybe can't afford it. And so, yeah, I think that's what's really great about Berkeley journalism is we really are at the cusp of innovating and trying to drive change and make an impact in the field because we, again, know that it does need help. But we think this is such a vital role. We need journalists, reporters, data reporters, documentarians, photojournalists to record what's happening on the ground and record the lives that are going to be changing, that have been changing, and will be affected by all the, what's happening around us and will, unfortunately, the way that obviously everyone has different takes on it, but there will be a need for truth telling and fact checking. And yeah, I think this is just going to incite a lot more people to play a more active role, and to report the real world as it is. And so I'm really excited to see what that will bring for all of us, the types of students that are reaching out to us and wanting to connect at such a pivotal time. I know a lot of international students are reaching out and want to be part of learning here in the US at such a pivotal time. And yeah, learning from the best and also contributing their expertise and various perspectives, having either worked in journalism or aspiring to work in journalism from their home countries and bring that knowledge back. So yeah, it's just an exciting time to be here in journalism, I think. Most of us can agree to that.
I don't think I don't think I'm overstepping when I say each one of these departments has a dedicated person, if not people, to helping their students find careers and internships and opportunities. And whether it's a year-long program like Columbia or Berkeley's two-year long program, there's such an intention with each one of these programs to help their students find um, jobs, whether that's a job in working for Politico or ProPublica or something a little bit more local news related or BBC, Al Jazeera. There's that dedicated career person who's there to guide and bring in all those opportunities. And also, there's a lot of collaboration between a lot of our schools to really find that. JT, Joel, Martha, anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, sorry, one last thing.
Oh,
I
go ahead,
wanted to
Ellie.
say that I think that is something that's so beautiful about journalism is we're so collaborative. Like I think the fact that we can have a panel of all of our schools come together, especially, at this time, and to connect and say, we want you to apply to all the range of, options. That's another thing to keep in mind. We do have application fee waivers. I don't know, I assume all of us have opportunities to, for you, if that's a financial barrier, please reach out to our different schools. We're happy to see what we can do. I know that applying to multiple schools can be financially challenging too. So do try to reach out to us if that's something that you're kind of questioning, but really wanting to be a part of and have a chance at being admitted to our schools.
Yeah. No school, I would definitely say no school is above another, and there's no one beneath another. There's strengths and challenges that each one may have, but it's definitely like you gain a lot from the experience. So since I've consolidated a lot of the chat questions, and I did notice that Mr. Dr. Sad had his hand up, I'm going to invite him to ask his question. So feel free to unmute yourself, Doctor.
Yeah, hello, good morning, all of you.
Hello, what would be your question?
Yeah, am I audible to you?
Yes, you are.
Yeah, actually, I'm looking for a PhD program in journalism. Can anyone of you help me?
So you're looking for a PhD program in journalism.
Yeah.
So I believe
Slash,
I know for, oh, go ahead.
communication, slash communication slash media. Anything.
Mhm. So at least I know for Berkeley, we do not have a specific in our school PhD for journalism, but I believe Taryn at Columbia Journalism would like to provide some a little bit more insight into that.
Yes, so our PhD is not in journalism, it's in communication. So you'll be studying the field of communication. So I'll give you an example. So maybe is, I don't know, how women are being portrayed by the media. So it's very much about research. It's about, I would say 7 to 10 years long that you will be pursuing your PhD degree. So, and most of our alums end up as professors in different universities, different schools, think tanks. So again, it's not in journalism where you're actually doing and going out there and doing reporting. It's more about the research aspect of things.
Actually, I already hold a PhD in international studies, and I want to pursue a second PhD in journalism. So, will that align with your policies?
So if it aligns with journalism, Columbia's journalism
With
policy
the-
to attain a second PhD.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, Taryn.
Absolutely. There's not a cap on the number of doctoral degrees that you can obtain. Again, as long as it makes sense as to why you want to pursue our degree. And when I say if it makes sense, meaning are we going to be able to offer you what you're looking for in terms of your doctoral degree, that is absolutely fine. You can apply further to the program.
Thank you, Taryn. And just to say what Martha put in the chat, Newhouse also offers a PhD in mass communications, and your research interests will need to match that of their faculty. And students take about 5 to 6 years to complete it at their program. So yeah, thank you, Doctor. Innocent.
Just really quick,
Oh, go ahead.
it's in community. We take 5 a year. They're fully funded, and they have 4 years to complete their program.
That was the
Yeah.
only reason I wanted to do a PhD in sociology was because it was fully funded. But then I went into journalism. Innocent, would you like to go ahead and ask your question?
Yeah, thanks, Address. This I'll be directing this to Taryn at Columbia J School. I asked on the short question on the short session wasn't answered, so I decided to ask it here. So, I have applied and I am currently applying for the scholarship. But there is a place where I'm required to upload my tax clearance. I'm from Nigeria. I have my tax clearance, right? But I'm also expected to upload the transcription. Um, I'm kind of stuck, not sure how to do that because the tax office doesn't offer that. I don't
Yeah.
know how to go about that.
Okay, so for the specific program that you're contacting, is it I would highly recommend that since this is also very confidential or like unique to your situation, reach out to the admissions advisor in that department so we could specifically help you and just to avoid any lapses in confidentiality here. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. Jamie?
Hi, everyone. Sorry, can you hear me? Okay, great. So I was wondering if students in your programs wanted to attend conferences such as AAJA, NABJ, these specific communities. I would, for example, want to attend Society of Environmental Journalists conference as well. Are there programs at your school that would fund them to go to these places?
Um, by the look of it, yes. To give a quick lapse of like at least Berkeley, we do have these chapters, and I'm sure that these other schools have chapters of these affinity groups and these organizations within their campuses. And at least for us, there is a set budget by the university or by the school to allow the students to use these funds to go to these conferences or to pay for these to attend to them. So unless any other school has something different to that standard, I'll leave it at that.
We're the same issue. We will always bring students to all the affinity group.
Yep, we do as well.
Okay. Awesome. Micello, and then we'll have one more question from the chat, and then we will wrap it up for the sake of time.
Okay, yeah. I was wondering, can you all say something about what you might see as the differences in the kind of work experience you're able to offer students? Because I've seen, I think like on Berkeley's pages and Columbia, like the different kind of opportunities you have during the year and over the summer for students to work at different publications. And so, yeah, like what do you think makes your program special? And then also, I'm wondering what kind of experiences international students have had with that. Yeah.
Okay, so let's actually start off with Syracuse, since you had already mentioned that you saw Berkeley and Columbia. So, Martha, Joel, what might be some experiences that students may have with publication?
Well, ironically, even though my attention has been totally on to this webinar here, I have been multitasking because I teach an investigative reporting class next semester. So I have reached out to the editors of the Rochester newspaper and Central Current, which is another thing. So we try to get all of our classes, not just our internship classes, get practical real life experience. And almost all of our grad programs have a capstone that involves either an internship or a special project and working for professional publications. I always tell the three little bear stories about Syracuse. It's like, so we're not in the big city like New York or San Francisco, but we're not in the teeny city like Columbia, Missouri or Lawrence, Kansas. We're in the just right city of Syracuse. It's close enough to those things, but also have all sorts of professional opportunities, and they want our students to help. And sometimes in the big cities, they want the students, but we don't believe in internships where you're basically carrying coffee or doing grunt work. We want our students to have the actual experience, and then that really is what leads them to getting jobs. Because ultimately, the purpose of all of us here is to get you good paying, good jobs out there in the world. And the way you get that is by building up a resume and clips and portfolio and resume tapes and all those other things. So I think we all are in agreement. And truthfully, the environment now is helpful to us because they need manpower and woman power to go out there to cover these stories, especially the sophisticated investigative or political stories, which I've been doing the whole year. I'm glad it's over with. But, that we supplement all these news organizations, and they are very thankful for it. I mean, I just sent my class down to Pennsylvania to do man and woman on the street interviews during the election for Penn Live, and they had a whole big display on their website about what my students found. So that's our goal, and I think we do a really good job of accomplishing that.
Yeah. JT, would you anything to add on to that for CUNY?
Yeah, we actually have a New York City news service outlet, and it's essentially powered by our current students. So what they do is I mentioned this class earlier in the presentation, craft journalism. Students in that class will create these stories. They work with the director of that particular program, and then they add it to that site. That's a public-facing site, so some news organizations have picked it up. So that's one way to publish. We also have like two other local news outlets that are located in Mont Haven, the Bronx, and I think it's somewhere else in the South Bronx. So that's another way as well. And then there's the required summer internship that's also very helpful as well.
And then
Now for it gets a little tricky with international students, and that's something that you will have to talk with the your advisor about that, because sometimes as international students, I don't know how they would get paid if they're like on the visa. So that's something that you'd have to chat with our advisor.
Thank you, JT. Taryn, Nelly, anything else that you'd like to add on?
What I would say is that being in the program is giving you the experience that you need, the hands-on. You are creating clips, you are creating news that is going to be used. And some of our students have successfully pitched what they do in further class and have been picked up by news organizations, the New York Times, New York Daily News. But we also post the student work on our site, and it's heavily edited by our faculty members, again, because we are recreating what it's in essence a real news organization. Like I just included a link there of the work that our students did for the elections. And it included field work, broadcast students, interviews with experts, and all of that can be found, easily found. And we've seen people, meaning the public, was really following and consuming the news that was put together by our students.
Yes, I want to echo that as well. I think that's one of the strengths of our program is that we are a 2-year program. When, students ask, when I ask our current students kind of, why did you choose Berkeley? That's generally like the main reason for them is that I think that and funding, obviously, funding is is always important, but just understanding that, and again, our faculty really strongly believe that we really want that 2 year, that it really does take 2 years. And sometimes I've never heard a student say, oh, I wish it was a shorter program. Like students never come away from the program being like, oh, if anything, they say, oh, it went by so fast. So I think that for me really speaks to, the 2 years really allows our students to build a comprehensive portfolio of published work in the program, and that is through classes, because again it's very much about learning by doing. So from day one in that boot we have a first year J200 course where everyone is really learning to be a journal. Everyone is reporting, they're practicing what they're doing the craft, and they're learning by doing. The summer internship is super important and vital for students. And also, again, through the support of our faculty, alumni, and career services team, to ensure that you have the skill sets to in journalism and storytelling, and being able to take the time to also find a role, the right role for you post-graduation. I think all of that takes time. I know a lot of our international students really enjoy the 2-year. I think that's a really important time. The fact that we're a 2-year STEM program as well allows up to 3 years OPT post-graduation. So again, I think there's so many advantages to having the 2 years. But again, for some people that might not be a strength. So I think it's really, something to think about. And again, I think all of these programs are going to offer something unique and speak to you personally and based on your experience, what you're looking for after you graduate. But for us, I think a 2-year program we wouldn't have it any other way for a lot of our students as well.
So with that, just for the sake of time, and I'm sure everyone here has very busy schedules, and we're so gracious for them for joining for us. But if you have any further questions, please reach out to each and every one of these schools, because they have been are top of the line in communicating and being very transparent with their programs. And I could gladly say that I apply to all of them. And with that, we are going to finish today's session. I am so sorry to those who still had a few questions left unanswered, but
Andres, could you quickly just show that last slide that has all of our emails there? Just quickly, for people if they want to do a screenshot of it on their laptops or on their phones, wherever you're viewing this, just so that you have, a snapshot of this. But yeah.
Yeah, so that's pretty much it, everyone. thank you for joining us. We give you the biggest piece of advice that I would provide you as a student who has gone through the application process with all these schools is start writing what the statements of purpose and your personal history statements now. Some schools have it of different lengths, but once you start writing it and start getting a hang of it, that's really going to be helpful. And especially with making sure that you have each essay tailored to the school that you're applying to. So whether it's just off the top of my head, like Columbia, talking about how you prepared for the program and specific faculty there, or with like Berkeley, talking about like your personal history and what you've gone through to like get yourself to that position. That's my biggest piece of advice. And take the deadlines of each and every one of these schools and provide yourself a 2 week buffer. Give yourself that goal that you're going to turn it in 2 weeks early. I know it sometimes seems hard, but it's going to give you that buffer zone to still communicate with the admission staff to make sure that if anything goes wrong, if waivers aren't working, or if your recommenders haven't turned it in on time, you still have that buffer zone before that final deadline. And I know for some, it's a complete shut off. At Berkeley, there is a second round, but you wouldn't be necessarily prioritized for funding. So with that being said, I am going to invite all our panelists to a Berkeley tradition, which is saying "Go Bears" on three. So we're gonna go ahead and unmute ourselves. I'm gonna go ahead and take this screen off. So please, everyone, make sure that you have all the emails and the information that you're seeking, that you have that saved. And with that, I'm gonna ask everyone to unmute themselves and say "Go Bears" on the count of three. All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. Go Bears!
Bears.
Just so you
So
know,
all the other mascots as well.
the Bears will be playing. The Bears
Water
will be
Lions roar.
Quick question. What are your mascots? Quick question.
out of
We
the
don't have
orange,
one.
but the orange will be playing the Bears in like 2 weeks, I think, or in a
Well,
week.
no, whoever wins, that's where students should apply for grad school. You're
I
right.
think that's fair.
Yeah, I used to be a tour guide for 4 years, so this is very much not new to me. But
I will say that I have 4 nephews and nieces in California, and 3 of them went to Berkeley, and then the black sheep went to UCLA. So what can I say?
fine. California's its own ecosystem, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so different being on the West Coast from you all on the East Coast. But I appreciate everyone that was able to join from wherever parts of the world or the country you're coming from. We all are so excited to welcome you, applications, invite you to join our events and reach out to us. We're all here. Journalism is so much, as I said, a collaborative community. We need to band together. And yeah, it's just exciting. Wherever you end up, wherever you apply, it will be great. As Joel kind of just to resonate, to echo what Joel said, you're going to be fine. We're all going to be great. And yeah, we just are all here for you. So yeah, everyone here is amazing. So
make sure you start writing, make sure you start reaching. You've already reached out to your recommenders and doing that. And I guess final tip, show why you're motivated to pursue a career in journalism. Really just show that in your application, in your, at least for us, our personal, our video, in interview sessions with other schools. Just really showcase that, why you feel like it's a natural progression for you, or why you're doing that shift. And that's really going to make your application a lot stronger. So with that, bye everyone. I'm going to finish with the recording, and this will be posted in various sources. So have a good day.